It's me again, Ethan Griggs, with my blog, Film Now and Forever.blogspot.com. This is another one of my videos I want to dedicate to the great German director Fritz Lang, who did some of the most dynamic films in Germany. Most specifically, there was Dr. Mabuse, The Gambler, which was a two-part deal, and the sequel to that, The Testament of Dr. Mabuse, and then there was Metropolis and M. Now, those are his most. He did several others, but those are his most remembered films. And Dr. Mabuse, The Gambler, and The Testament of Dr. Mabuse were really great films that kind of projected the way life was in Germany at the time. And Metropolis was one of those films that was essentially kind of like what Avatar was today. That's what Metropolis was. The only difference is Metropolis didn't make that much money. It was essentially a flop because it was way ahead of its time, but it was truly a great movie. It nearly bankrupted UFA, but it was truly amazing for the time it was made, and Lang definitely displayed a craft for filmmaking. And for me, Lang was always ahead of his time, but he always did it in a great way. But his true masterpiece was M, which was about a serial killer who most specifically kills children. He kidnaps them and kills them. It was played by Peter Lorre, and Peter Lorre just gives that kind of creepy performance. And this was really considered the first serial killer movie to be made. Now, there was echoes of a serial killer in Pandora's Box, where you got to see the mind of a serial killer, but this was the first film dedicated to a serial killer. And along with Fritz Lang's sci-fi epic Metropolis and his crime films of Dr. Mabuse and such, M stands out among these films because it is one of the well-made movies of all time. And even Fritz Lang considered M to be his greatest achievement. And actually, before he died, around the time that he starred in Contempt for Godard, he was considering remaking M, but that didn't pan out. But anyways, and around the time of 1933, when The Testament of Dr. Mabuse came out, that was around the time that the Nazis were coming to power in Germany, and Joseph Goebbels, the way the story goes, Joseph Goebbels approached Fritz Lang about heading the Nazi film division. And the way the story goes is that Lang immediately that night left Germany, and he didn't come back. And he left Germany, but that's the way the story goes. That's the reason why. Nobody knows exactly why, but that's the way the story goes. And so Lang essentially went to Hollywood, where he continued to make exceptional movies. There is that tradition where a lot of directors, I think it's more true now than it was back then, but that the films they made in Hollywood didn't really compare to the ones they made in their native country. Well, the way it goes, Lang was on top of his game no matter where he was. Most specifically, the film that he did, I think it was his second American film, You Only Live Once, with Sylvia Sidney and Henry Fonda, which is an amazing film. It's just packed with emotion, and you really feel the pain and the anguish in these characters. I was completely blown away by this movie, and I was like, I knew it was going to be good when I sat down to watch it, and it amazed me more than I thought it would. And on top of that, Lang would do mostly film noirish type movies, crime, gangster stuff that he pretty well did in Germany. But along with coupled with Edward G. Robinson, the great Scarlet Street, and The Woman in the Window, and he did The Big Heat, and he even did 3 westerns. He did a film with Marlene Dietrich called Rancho Notorious, which was really good, and he also did a movie called, I believe it's called Western Union with Randolph Scott, and then there is The Return of Frank James with Henry Fonda. Yes, Henry Fonda. But all through the 40s and the 50s, Lang continued to make quality films, exceptional movies, on a par with the ones he did in Germany, if not better, with that exception being M. I mean, M is his greatest achievement, and even Lang himself said that. And after the 50s, he really didn't do that many more notable works. I do believe that I think he, in the late 50s, closer to the 60s, he did go back to Germany to make a few films. I think he even did another Dr. Mabuse film. Now, between The Testament of Dr. Mabuse and The Thousand Eyes of Dr. Mabuse that Lang eventually did, it may have been his last film, I'm not for sure on that, but he would go on to, between those 2 movies, they had done several other Dr. Mabuse films that Lang had nothing to do with. But his final one was The Thousand Eyes of Dr. Mabuse. And aside from the films that he directed, like You Only Live Once, The Big Heat, and Scarlet Street, he starred in a film in 1963 called Contempt that Jean-Luc Godard directed, and Lang pretty much plays himself. He's Fritz Lang directing he's trying to direct The Odyssey for a producer that is played by, for kind of a belligerent producer that's played by Jack Palance. And the story follows, it's semi-autobiographical for Godard. The character that the character of the writer is semi-autobiographical for Godard, and the wife of the writer, played by Brigitte Bardot, is kind of a play on Godard's then wife, Anna Karenina. There's a scene where Bardot even has the wig that gives her the hairstyle of Anna Karenina. But anyways, Contempt was a great movie just to display that it's got Lang and everything, and it's one of the best movies about movies. But as far as Fritz Lang goes, he's just one of those rare directors that no matter what he does, I mean, he is a master of the craft of filmmaking. I mean, there's so much intensity in his movies, and one theme that you just can't dismiss, and as what I noticed, it was brought to my attention when I watched the mega documentary A Personal Journey Through American Movies with Martin Scorsese. He pointed out that one of Lang's favorite themes was nightmare becoming reality, and you watch this, and you watch every one of his films, and it's there. Nightmare becoming reality, so much so that you don't believe it yourself. You're biting your knuckles, and you're eating your nails, and you're just like, you can't believe what is happening. But Lang, he does it just like it's nothing. It's there, and you were forced to watch it. You can't take your eyes off it because it's so great. And that, for me, Lang is probably the best director to come out of Germany. And he even, he gave the Americans a run for their money. Like I said, he was always ahead of his time, and he had his pulse on what was great. And he didn't compromise that for nothing, even in Contempt, And he wasn't going to compromise it for the Nazis or anything. Lang was just he's the man. That's all there is to say on that. And be sure to check out my blog for other reviews on stuff, a more in-depth view of You Only Live Once at filmnowandforever.blogspot.com. Thank you.